was a little bit nervous, and then I realized how good I was. So I'm like, yeah, settle down, just go do what you got to do. 33 people flew out, only 30 made it onto the first little episode, and then only 15 made it onto the entire show. So once I got that out of my hat and I killed every level, I was like, you know what? And once I heard Gordo say spot on, beautiful, I was like, I'm good to go. And then the first challenge was a burger challenge, and I was like, I'm meant to be here.
That was Chef Ryan Von Smith, better known as Chef Von, from major culinary hubs like Los Angeles and New York to competing under Gordon Ramsay on Next Level Chef. Chef Von has built a reputation for performing under pressure. He placed third at the World Master Chefs competition in Macau. He's the 2024 World Rice Champion, and he's known for bold, unexpected flavors like his peanut butter bacon smash burger that somehow just works. And this conversation isn't just about food, it's about resilience, reinvention, and having the confidence to bet on yourself when the stakes are high. This is Harmony Talk, the podcast where dreamers and doers share the human stories behind achievement and impact. Each conversation is made possible by AM Skyer, the sponsor of Harmony Talk, and a partner to people and organizations who make communities stronger. I am your host, Greg Frigoletto. Chef Von, welcome
What's up, my man?
to Harmony Talk.
Thank you for having me, brother.
Oh man, I got to tell you, the thrill is mine, and I am super stoked to have you with us here today at Harmony Talk.
Awesome.
Now, what I am confident about is by the end of this episode, our listeners will have heard from you, a guy who is loud, proud, courageous, and confident, and I mean that. I mean that in the most respectful way. But I know from hearing some of the things that you've said in the past that loud, proud, courageous, and confident wasn't always the case. I've heard you say you've spent a lot of your life feeling a little bit insecure, which means it's at odds with the bold and daring move you made when you moved from your hometown of Scranton, Pennsylvania to Los Angeles, California. And maybe that's a good place for us to start. Tell us about that move.
So I was about 23 years old. I was cooking here. I wasn't doing nothing but just drinking and partying. Well, I was 23, you know. I had a job at La Trattoria. It was one of the best Italian restaurants in Scranton at that time. I wish we could bring them back, actually, because we need that right now. But I was working there, and something that was just told me, like, I don't know. I just always knew I was more than this, you know. And I was out one night. We got into a fight. I got arrested, and I was like, you know what? And it wasn't my fault, by the way, but, you know, it happened. And I went to court, got out of that, and I said, you know what, I'm moving. So I got out, gave up my apartment, moved back with my mom. I think that was, I'm going to say, about March, and I saved up for 4 months, which wasn't that much. So I think I had about $1,100 when I left to move to LA. And my mom's like, you're nuts. I'm like, well, I don't care. I'm leaving. And I left and did that, and the rest is history. And right where I got arrested at in 2008, I own the restaurant now. And so I feel like that's God. You can't make that up.
So before you even left to go to LA, you were already into the food industry.
Yes, but like locally here, you know what I mean?
Right, yeah,
Absolutely,
okay.
Yes.
All right, so then you go to LA, and if you could tell us a little bit about that experience in LA, because it didn't last 10 minutes. I think it lasted years, correct?
Absolutely. So I moved out to LA thinking I wanted to go to culinary school, where Wolfgang Puck up in San Francisco. So I was reading stuff back online back then, and it said you can go to if you live in California, you go to school for free. So I'm young and dumb. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm moving out there. I'm gonna go to culinary school for free. And then I got out there, and that wasn't the case. I mean, it was for like a community college or something like that, or like a state college. If you live there for more than 3 years, you go for free. But to the where I wanted to go, that wasn't possible. So I was already out there, and I said, well, you know, let's get a job. So I made up a fake. I was big at that time. I was about 410 pounds when I left. And I was like, I'm big. I'm going to go get a security job. So I made a fake resume. It was Tinks was the only thing that was in town here back then. So I made it seem like an upscale place, you know. So I gave this fake resume, and I'm like, my hand's shaking. And the guy's like, you're here. I'm like, he's going to call home. He's going to check. He's going to know I'm lying. I walk in. He's like, you're huge. You got a black suit. Can you start Thursday? I'm like, well, I spent all this damn time, you know, making this resume. He didn't even give a crap.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up getting a job at the Crest nightclub, which was the top number one. It was a nightclub and a nightclub and restaurant, one of the top ones in Hollywood at that time. where I worked with every celebrity that's known to man. So I went from a little town in Scranton to 2 weeks later, up on the rooftop in Hollywood with Jerome Bettis and Kim Kardashian and everyone else. So absolutely. So
Wow.
it was a weird moment, but it was great.
Now, how long did that last in that world of being a bodyguard bouncer type of thing? And when did you segue into the food portion?
So I went out there. I started doing that. I was actually working for Vonage at the time at a call center. So I was going, and I lived in Santa Clarita, which is about an hour outside it was in Wilshire District. So like right, I would say downtown. So about an hour out. So I would go to work at 8 a.m. I would leave, come all the way down to LA for an hour, and then after that I would go from 5. Then I would start my job at Hollywood at 8 p.m. Get off there at 3:30 in the morning, drive an hour back. So I'd get home around 6 o'clock and have to wake back up and be back in LA for 9 a.m. for work. So it was nuts. Then I got done with that. So I started working, with the celebrities and things like that, which I got to work with Snoop for a while and do different kind of things like that. And then I segued into back into cooking. And I got my first cooking job at Saddle Ranch in Universal Studios in North Hollywood.
So at that point, had you had any formal training in the cooking or food industry?
No, zero. I had none. I mean, I've just been cooking. My entire family cooked. You know what I mean? So I learned from them at a young age, and I had no formal training. So I worked a couple places in LA, and then I got an opportunity to move to New York. I moved to New York, and the rest is history. And then I ended up running the top gross restaurant in the United States of America.
Before I get into some of the paths you've taken, obviously as a chef and the food part of it, going back to that experience in LA. So you get out there, you land where you landed, and you had the history you had in Scranton. There must have been, through those experiences, a lot you learned. So what did you learn that helped you evolve as a person once you landed in LA?
That's a good question. I would say LA taught me a lot more. You know what I mean? How to adjust and how to be the man that I am today. That's 100%. Because I had to struggle. I ran out of money. My mom and I got out there. I would never tell her she was right, but I'm like, she was right. Like, what the hell are you doing in LA for 1,100 bucks? And my uncle Pat slipped me 100 before I left. But that ran out very quick. But I've always been a hustler and a hard worker. So when I came back, I lost 145 pounds because I wasn't eating. I couldn't afford it. I remember I had the packs of ramen noodles I couldn't afford. I was 2 pennies short. They were 11 cents at that time. I had 9 cents, and I went out to Ralph's parking lot. It's like a big grocery chain out on the West Coast, and I found 2 pennies on the ground, and I got a pack of ramen noodles. So I'll never forget that. And when I came, it was before Facebook and all that. So when I came home, my mom picked me up at the Wilkes-Barre Airport, and she looked at me and she shook her head no, and just kept walking. And then I waited and I said, Mom, she said, what the hell? What's going on? Because she didn't even recognize me because I left, you know what I mean? It came back 145 pounds lighter. But it was just my determination for no one ever say I told you so or you'll be back. And you know what I mean? I just grinded it out and worked my way up, worked my ass off, and that's it. But I think that's what started the perseverance and gave me that, where I don't ask anyone for nothing and I just go work for it and I'll do it and get it myself either way. And if you tell me I can't do something, that's just going to drive me 50,000 times more.
When people hear about you, one of the things they hear about obviously is the peanut butter smash burger, right? It shouldn't work, but it does, and somehow you've built a brand on this. And when you think about that, and it's kind of the segue into the kind of thought of what makes you willing to try what others won't, because that's not a burger that most people would think it has any direction or any hope. But aside from the burger itself, just in general, what makes you willing to try what others won't? And does that relate to some of those experiences you had in LA that you just started talking about? Tell me I can't do it, I'm going to do it. That sort of mentality.
To have what others don't have, you got to do what others aren't willing to do. Do you know what I'm saying? So I always say in my deathbed or whenever the hell that happens or at the hospital, I never want to say what if. You know what I mean? If you're nervous, if you're scared, just do it anyway. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I live by.
Do you enjoy proving people wrong?
Absolutely.
Tell me about that.
I used to anyway. Now I can care less. You know what I mean? I just try to be better than I am the day before. So my only competition is me at this point. Before, I used to be that and needed the applause or needed the validation, but I validate myself now and God validates me. So I don't care anymore about that. I just go on my journey and do what I need to do at this time.
And on that journey, it seems as though you're willing to push boundaries. Is that about?
Oh, 1,000%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I came out the womb pushing boundaries.
I think your mother would attest to that.
Oh, 1,000%.
Yeah,
A
yeah,
thousand
yeah.
percent, yes.
Now, and what about the creative confidence? Where do you think that comes from?
Well, I never was really confident like with cooking because I could never afford to go to culinary school. Like that was always my dream to go to culinary school, but I couldn't afford it. So once I started working my way up the ranks into these upper echelon restaurants and fine dining and things like that, I was always insecure because these other guys, you know what I mean, studied in France and got to go to Paris and Italy and worked under these major celebrity chefs and had these culinary degrees from where I wanted to go until I went in there and I was like, you know what? They're humans just like me, and I just worked my ass off and I got to where I'm at. So that doesn't, you know what I mean? That doesn't really bother me anymore. But that's where I think where I got my confidence from, because I am pretty much the man now.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree. You are the man. But you, again, going back to that notion of, you didn't always have confidence, but then you kind of fast forward from that guy with no confidence to the guy that walks into Gordon Ramsay's world on the next level chef. A couple things about that. Number one, how did that happen? And then after you tell me that, I want to know what was it like, and what was the pressure like to be on that show?
So I've been chasing after Gordo. I call him Gordo
Mhm.
on the show for a while. So I remember I was at Tao, and Chef Ralph was one of the he was the corporate chef and partner, and he's like, you need to go. He had Lisa and Debbie Gans. They're twins. They're awesome people, by the way. But they did at that time they did all the casting for um, Next Level Chef for Hell's Kitchen.
Mhm.
So I went and I applied, and they were just like, you know what, you're too good. And I'm like, what? And they were like, you're too good, you're too experienced, and you say like you'd be awesome on the show, and Gordon would love you. This was in 2013, you know.
Right.
And then I applied a few other times, and it just never panned out. So I was just sitting. I was sitting at the office at the restaurant one day, and I got an email, and I was like, yeah, whatever. You know what I mean? It was like, this is Adina from Fox. She'd be interested having you on Next Level Chef. I ignored it a couple of times, and then she finally got me back, and she said, "This isn't spam. Like we're really serious." So I gave her a call back, and it was real. And I didn't never even heard of the damn show before ever, and so I had to go and watch. I went and watched. I'm like, oh, this is a pretty cool concept, and it took about 9 months of background checks and psychological backgrounds and evaluations, and then they hit me up and they were like, "Can you be in Ireland next week?" I'm like, "Absolutely, let's do it."
What was it that had you interested in doing something like that? Was it something you viewed as a potential launching pad, or was it something else?
That's a good question because I used to always want to be on TV, but then at this point I don't care anymore. And now that stuff's coming, so I think my character wasn't ready for that yet. You know what I mean? But I grew into it now. You know what I mean? I was ready for it. So sometimes if you get things too early, it can't be a blessing. You know what I mean? So I feel like everything is on point, on time. You know what I mean in your life for what season that you're in. You know what I mean? So I went on there and I was like, I want to meet Gordon, absolutely, and I want to go to Dublin because I love Jameson. So I said, let's go. Let's go.
Two things you love, and you went to the right place for that. Now,
Yes,
what I know about being a chef is not much, but I do know that there's a lot of pressure when you're in the kitchen. What was the
yes.
pressure like for you when you were on that show, and were you intimidated at first by that?
It's funny. I had zero pressure. Like I mean, like I had none. I was a little bit nervous, and then I realized how good I was. So I'm like,
Hmm.
yeah, settle down, just go do what you got to do. And then after the eliminations, there was 33 people flew out. Only 30 made it onto the first little episode, and then only 15 made it onto the entire show.
Right.
So once I got that out of my hat and I killed every level, I was like, you know what? And once I heard Gordo say "spot on, beautiful," I was like, I'm good to go. And then
Yeah.
the first challenge was a burger challenge, and I was like, I'm meant to be here.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, 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 yeah. When you did that show, was there something that surprised you about Ramsey?
Yeah, it was very humble and very nice. Very. I was expecting but he's a great guy. Very humble, and I like that. Some people get too big, you don't remember where you came from or how you got there. But he's very, very humble, and I love that about him. He's awesome. I love him.
It sounds like he would be a great sparring partner for you in that regard.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we had
Yeah.
our back and forth. It was great though. It was all in good
Yeah.
fun. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, absolutely. Now,
Absolutely. Yeah.
what would you say that experience changed on how you maybe view yourself and view others?
I've learned a lot about myself. I am actually cool under pressure. Different things. I know I have no patience. I've always known that. So
Hmm.
doing a long show like that again, I don't know because it was just
Right.
very long days for no reason. I'm like, and let's go home. Why am I here 15 hours later and you're asking me about stuff? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so, but I
Yeah.
learned that I am very good under pressure. And I see how much I've grown from where I came from the insecure cook to the chef that I am today,
Right.
and that's pretty much it.
When Ramsay started to tell you things that were positive in regard to your performance and how you were cooking as a chef, obviously you had some confidence and it had to be built on by some of the remarks and some of that experience, no?
Oh, 1,000%. That's what made me who I was at that moment being there. I ran some of the top restaurants in the country. You know what I mean? I've been under any pressure that you can think of, from Emmy parties in the construction zone to all kind of. So, and I've done more than 11 openings. The last opening I did was a $175 million project with 4 restaurants, a hotel, and 2 nightclubs. So I've been through, you know what I mean? I've been through it all. And I think it all added up at the right time for it to be where I was, at that moment. Absolutely. And to appreciate it.
So you go from, those big, larger than life moments, like we said before, you were in LA, you're in New York, you're in Vegas,
Right.
you're on this TV show, Next Level Chef.
Right.
Truly at that point, you could have said you've made it. But then,
No, I'm not
something,
even close.
well, yeah, and I'm going to get to that in a minute too,
Yeah.
because your story, I think, is barely started. But
Yes.
in the midst of all that success that you were having at the time, something happened not just to you but to all of us. The world shut down, COVID
Yeah.
happens, and then you go back to your hometown, you go back to Scranton,
Yeah.
and if you
Very
could.
depressing.
Well, yeah, but tell me a little bit about that, because you turned
Ugh.
what you just described, and we would all agree was something that was pretty depressing, right, at the
Right.
time. But you turned it into something, I think that's actually magical and historical.
I
Tell
think
us a little
God
bit.
did that. I can't take credit for that.
Well, tell us a little bit
You
about
know.
what did happen, because I think our listeners would really like to hear what happened when you created that underground supper club.
Yeah. So I left corporate, which was Tao Group, and I wanted to do my own thing. But sometimes I learned you keep listening to these people online, just go and do what you want. Don't be an idiot because you
Mhm.
still have bills. So I learned the hard way. Set yourself up first, have a good savings before you decide to be like, I'm out of here. I'm going to live my dream. You be smart about that. That's one
Right.
thing. Don't listen to those guys online because it's full of crap. So I did that, and then I was like, you know what? I'm going to go back to corporate. I moved to New York. I got an offer. I was going to London. We were opening up a restaurant in Tribeca. I was going to London to check out that location because this was going to be the first location in the U.S. And then right like the day before that, my itinerary had my train thing, everything, talking with the chefs to go meet out there. And all of a sudden, they were like, everything's closed. And I'm like, what? So I'm like, all right, I don't like, just like us. I didn't know what was it going to be, 4 days, a week. No one expected 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Right.
I was
Right.
just in there. I was just about to sign my lease for my apartment in New York and everything. And then next thing, I had a whole thing going on. Then the next week, I was back in this town of Pennsylvania that I've ran away from, for a while. But it also built me, and I love the town. I've just outgrown it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I do like to tell people around here that anything's possible. You know what I mean? Anything is possible, and don't count yourself out. People count themselves out before they even try, and then that's why you're stuck where you're stuck at. You make yourself stuck. You can keep yourself stuck, or you can unstick yourself. So my word is, you can either be a victim or you can be victorious. But you have to put the work, and no one's going to save you but yourself.
And when you get back to Scranton and you talk about being victorious,
Yes.
something happened that actually was, I think, a victory. I think for you and for
Yeah,
your
cooking in
mom.
the house that I was raised. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I
tell
was
me about
here.
that.
I was here. I was bored. My mom was working. She hated her job. She loved what she did because she worked with special needs people, but they just overworked her because they didn't care. But she cared about the people and not just to check like they saw them. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Hmm.
So I ended up cooking in this small, tiny apartment, and I grew on Facebook. I would post it, and people would, and it just grew to 60 to 75 people a day during COVID. People like, oh, where is it at? Where's it at? And it was like a private message DM for the address. It wasn't just because I don't know how I didn't get shut down like the health department. Like, I don't know, but there would be a line of people down the street blocking in the neighbors on the one-way street with the four ways on, picking up their orders, and we did that. And I was like, you know what? This is what you wanted. You always wanted something. So she sacrificed a lot for me as a single parent, and I never needed it or wanted for anything. I was actually very spoiled. So that was my chance to give back to her. You know what I'm saying? So that's why we have the restaurant. That's why it's called Chef Vaughn and Mom.
Now, when you talk about, your mom, obviously, there's a little bit of a bright light in your eyes, and there's a lot to be thankful for when it comes to your mom, and I can tell that you have a great level of sincerity when you talk about your mom, and I would imagine you have a love of food. Obviously, it had to have started at home, and your mom, and maybe you could talk to us a little bit about why do you love food, and where did it start, and was it at home?
I don't know why I think I was always a fat kid. So I like to eat. All my uncles, my grandfather, you were at the shop the other day. I had the picture up, but he was
Mhm.
a chef in World War II. He used to beat my butt, discipline me. You know what I mean? When I was a bad kid. So I always looked up to him and admired him. But all my grandfather, my great grandfather, all the men in my family were cooks. The women cook too, but the men, are
Right,
like the cooks.
right,
And
yeah.
I've always just been around it. And it's just always been like my calm space. So it just evolved. That was my best grades
Is that yeah,
in school. Like
yeah.
I was telling the teacher, the kids wouldn't even listen to the teacher; they were listening to me. So it always started at a young age, and I just always knew I wanted to be successful. I didn't know what at, and it just evolved into into the cooking thing.
And you became obviously really good at this. So what does cooking like provide or give you personally?
I like to see the satisfaction on people's faces, and I like to see when when they undervalue it or whatever the word I'm looking for, when they don't think it's that good or just they don't know, and then they eat it like this is really good, and I'm like, yeah, I know. You know what I'm saying? And I love that fact of people eating my food and just being happy and bringing joy. That does it for me.
Was there a point in time when your palate or your understanding of the finer qualities of good food, like how did
Yes,
that happen? Because a lot of people don't ever acquire that or have an interest in it.
ever or still
Yeah,
don't.
yeah. So like how did that happen for you?
you know, um, I've always been, I think, like a critic, just because I feel like my stuff is good. I'm harder on myself than anyone. So people are
Right.
like, "You're tough," or what. I'm like, "Yeah, well, you should hear me talk to myself." You know.
Yeah.
Um, But I think just through traveling and just traveling the world, living all over traveling all over the country, literally all over the world, and just getting the finer things in life. If you don't know better, you don't do better. So
Right.
if you've never been to somewhere nice, you're gonna like TGI Fridays or Texas
Yeah.
Roadhouse until you've been
Yeah.
to a real steakhouse. Then it's hard
Right.
to go back to that. So when you get
Sure.
exposed to different, you can't go back. It's like you fly first class. You don't want to fly coach again, but you don't mind coach if you never had first class. You know what
Sure.
I'm saying? So
100%. Yeah.
that's how I feel like anything in life like that works.
Yeah, and there's got to be a great willingness to be creative, and not everybody could be creative, and that must be something that for you comes naturally in regard to creativity and cooking.
Yeah, I don't know if it's yeah. In the beginning, I was always, "What do you think? What do you think?" I cared about what everybody thought. So I was always a people pleaser, a yes person, wanted to make everybody happy. Forget that. Make yourself happy. You know what I'm saying? And that's where I'm at. And whatever I like, and if I feel like it's good, then that's going to go out. But some people, you have to have you got to have I was going to say the balls, but you have to have the balls to step out of the box and to do something. You know what I mean? And most people like to just fit in, or like I never want to fit in because that's horrible.
Talking about stepping outside of the box and taking chances like that. We know, and I know that oftentimes things don't happen overnight, like the overnight success story. So what's the part of it doesn't happen overnight that people don't see that you would want them to know?
It's not easy. Like you know how many times I wanted to give up, you know how many times I want to end my life, you know how many times I'm just over it. Like you have to have a relationship with God first and
Hmm.
foremost. Because I'm
Yeah,
nothing without him. You know what I mean? Like the
sure.
talent, the gifts, all that belongs to him. 'Cause I never would have made it this far without the strength. You know what I mean? With him, you get a million no's before you get a yes. You
Right.
know what I mean? So on overnight success, there's no such thing as an overnight success. And these younger generation, they just see the Instagram or the TikTok. It does nothing happens overnight, and you have to put the work in. Most people don't want to put the work in. You can't get mad at someone for putting the work in and getting what they got because what do they say? It takes 100,000 hours to be a professional at something. It takes at least 10 years to be a professional. So all the backside people don't see. You know what I mean? They don't see the sleepless nights. They don't see the hard work, and they don't see any of that. Like I didn't just pop up and be, Chef Vaughn overnight. This was 15 years in the making of getting doors slammed in my face and no's, even when you know you're talented and good enough. You just have to keep going and you have to believe in yourself. If you believe in yourself, you can accomplish anything. And the right people will meet you at the right time.
And you talked
1,000%.
about like there were obviously some down lean years. So
For
what
me,
was it that kept you going
my faith,
when no
thousand
one was
percent.
watching? Yeah, it's the
My
faith.
faith, a thousand
Yeah.
percent. My faith in myself.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Even when I didn't have the faith in myself, God gave me the faith for me. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
When you know that you're meant for something bigger and something greater, you can't stop. It might sound good to, sit down a little bit, cry a little bit, but get up and keep it moving. You can't stay there. You know what I'm saying? You got to get up and you got to keep going. Absolutely. It's not easy, but you gotta do it.
You have to do it. And what you're talking about now, um, it's kind of a segue into what some good advice would be to aspiring chefs. And I'm hoping, some young chef will be listening to this podcast. And I'm sure if there is, sometimes they feel stuck. What do they need to hear? What are the things that you would want them to know, along with some of the things you've already shared with us? What,
First of all, I
like,
would say don't be a chef. You start off as a cook. Even if you're a chef,
right,
you're always a cook.
right.
In this industry, you have to love it. You have to want it. Now there's so many celebrity chefs. There's so many. It looks glamorous. It's not glamorous at all.
Mhm.
Like at all. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of stress. But if you're built for it and you love it, then I would say follow it. You know what I mean? Like my godson, which I'm proud of him. He's at the CIA, so he's at this Culinary Institute of America, which is like the Yale or Harvard of culinary schools. On a full scholarship. He came with me at 14. He didn't quit, which is great. But I prepared him very well, for the world working under me because I'm meticulous and I'm a perfectionist, and that doesn't bother me either because that's what makes me good. You know, so I would say just be yourself. You could look up and admire other people, but just be yourself. People want authenticity, so be authentic. Most people you see everywhere on these pages and these creators, it's all the same stuff. Be yourself. There's only one you. You can't be anybody else, and that's how you're going to get further is being authentic and being yourself.
You talked about, you said your godson, correct?
Yes, Savion.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and he's going to a culinary institute, and
From
you
America,
mentioned
yeah.
that you never did.
Yeah.
How many couple things? First of all, do you think it's essential that somebody that wants to aspire to be a chef has to do that? The second part of my question for you is how many times were you in, like a Michelin type kitchen where somebody said, "Hey, where did you go?" and you had to answer? Yeah. So tell me about that a little bit.
Before I would say yes. Now, absolutely not. Because I've ran circles around people that's graduated out of the CIA or studied at France or wherever. If you have it in you, you have it in you. One thing I did learn when you come out, you can say fancy stuff in French. You don't know how to cook. You don't know how to run a restaurant. You don't know how to cook. And you're not going to come out making $1 million. You're going to start with $10 an hour. Well, that's back then. Now it's different. And you're going to be peeling potatoes and peeling Brussels sprouts, and you have to want it. And you learn. I think you learn more hands on. So for me, it was hands on and learning. So I had an attitude back in the day. So I got fired a lot. But that made me go to more restaurants. That's why I know French, I know Spanish, I know Mexican, I know Italian. You know what I'm saying? But my thing is if I don't think it's not necessary. If you can afford it, absolutely do it. If you can't, get in under someone that you can learn onto. And now there's you can save yourself $100,000 a year by going on YouTube or Google. You know what I mean? There's different times now where you can learn a lot of stuff. Absolutely. And the most important part about being a chef is being cool under pressure and being a leader. And that's the difference. Like you gotta cook like a grandma, think like a scientist, fix stuff like a janitor. You gotta be all 5 things. You gotta be everything to run a successful restaurant.
You talk about you need to be a leader. Was there somebody along the way that you worked under that inspired you on that leadership level?
I didn't respect any of my chefs for years until I got my job at Tao with Chef Ralph, and everyone was like, he told Yoshi worked under Wolfgang Puck. And I was late for this interview. I went in, I was shaking. I saw the doorknobs on the restaurant, and I was like, I can't get in here. And I went to Tao in Vegas years ago, and I couldn't get into the club. Fast forward later, I'm the corporate exec running all 3 restaurants and locations in LA and New York. So anything is possible, by the way. And I was on the phone with my mom, and I was going to leave because I didn't think I was going to, because you have to do a tasting, and I was going to leave. And because you have to do a tasting and everything. The only Asian stuff I knew was the soy sauce packet, duck sauce. I couldn't even use chopsticks, and the mustard you get in the takeout. Then I had to make a 5-course dish, 5 dishes out of this stuff. I couldn't even read the labels. And then in the walk-in, it's just food, Ryan. It's just food. And I'm like, it's just food, and I killed it. And I'm so glad. I was about to take my apron off, try to sneak out because they all have the basements in New York. And I was like, no, I'm going to do it. And then, you know what I mean? Then I ended up running the top restaurant in the country. It's just food. So if you're scared, do it scared.
Just do it.
You know what I mean? And that's what I would leave people with. Just do it. If you feel it, just do it. You never know. What if everybody's like, what if it doesn't? What if it doesn't? But what if it does work? Everyone says, what if it doesn't work? What if it does work? And if it doesn't, do it again where you messed up at and make it work. So I don't have a plan B. My plan B is to make plan A work.
Well, I mean, so let's talk about that. Your next plan. So again, you've worked in LA, New York, Vegas, and competed internationally.
Yes, I'm leaving for China in 3 weeks, actually. So it's actually going to be pretty cool.
So like that is kind of like the future here. What do the next 5 years look like for you? Maybe or more, 10 years, 20 years. What is the goal for you as you move forward?
The goal is to just vacation and not work as much, and then just yell at people and run my restaurants through cameras. Right. But I do want to get into more motivational speaking, actually, within the next few years. Once I get a couple more locations under me, but I want to open up a couple more locations. I have a sauce line that I'm working on now with launching sauces and spices, and just building Chef Vaughn as a brand, and just being positive and just making great food and making a lot of money and let my mom retire. That's the thing.
Yeah, Mom would appreciate that.
Yes, she works her ass off to this day still. So I wouldn't be able to fly and go right where I'm doing without her holding it down. So and I do have a good staff finally at the restaurant. So I just want to bring other people up. You know what I mean? People that can help, people that help me along the way, set them up, and just keep it going. Just keep giving back.
Keep giving back. Now, as we wrap up here,
yes, sir.
I would ask you, what does daring to be different mean to you now?
Daring to be different is just be yourself. Be comfortable with yourself. Stop thinking about what other people think. Most people that you're intimidated by or worry about what they're thinking don't even like themselves. Or don't even know what you know what I mean? They don't even know what they're doing. You know what I mean? And most people that pay attention to you or talk bad about you or down to you is because they hate themselves. So just be yourself. You have one life. Who gives a crap? If you do good, they're going to talk about you. If you do bad, they're still going to talk about you. So just do you. Yeah. You know, don't worry about what other people think. Worry about what you think. That's all that matters.
I think you're spot on, and unfortunately, people spend a lifetime worried about what other people think.
Exactly, that are more mentally messed up than themselves, and just let their life pass them by. I refuse to do that, and I refuse to let anybody around me do that.
Now, listen, I want to thank you for being with us. It's been, something really inspirational. You have a great story, and I honestly think your story is just beginning, and there's so much still ahead.
Absolutely. The more money I get, the more people I can help. So God, bring it on,
All right.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, listen, thank you. And thanks to everybody for listening to Harmony Talk, where dreamers and doers show us what's possible when you bet on yourself before anyone else does. If today's conversation motivated you, sign up for our newsletter at HarmonyTALKpodcast.com and get more stories of courage and reinvention. A big thanks to our sponsor, AM Skyer, for supporting conversations that inspire, and thank you to Chef Vaughn for joining us today. You can follow Chef Vaughn on Instagram at either Chef Vaughn Mom or at Vaughn the Chef. You could also find him on Facebook at Chef Vaughn and Mom, and on his website at chefvaughn.com. Best yet, if you find yourself in the Scranton area, stop in at Chef Vaughn and Mom at 501 Linden Street to experience the soul-satisfying taste of the bold and unexpected. Until next time, I'm Greg Frigoletto. Keep dreaming, keep doing, and own your next chapter.